here today. I'm really excited to talk to you. I like that it's a small group, so I hope to make this really informal and take any questions that you might have as well. So like when MetricStream first asked me to speak here, I thought like, what is it that I would have to offer? Because you heard like Michigan, Blue Cross Blue Shield, those guys are dealing with 5,000 users of adoption. You know, they've been at this for 10 years. Whereas here at Autodesk, like we've only been doing this for 2 years, and I've been doing it with Autodesk for 1.5 years. So we're pretty immature in our journey. I would say we're pretty early on in it. But you know, if I look back on that and like, if you are a technology organization trying to do MetricStream or GRC, or if you are an organization trying to work with a smaller team to do MetricStream, or if you are an organization that's trying to do it through like information security as the sort of you know, first movers, then you might have something to learn from our journey at Autodesk. So really, like, yeah, I have like a strong goal here, which is to teach you anything that I can teach based on the past 1.5 years of what we've been going through at Autodesk. So I have a whole agenda. I'll tell you a little bit about Autodesk itself, and like I'll focus a lot of time on what our MetricStream looks like right now, you know, 1.5 years in. And then I'll be focusing probably most of my time on our challenges and what we learned from those challenges in the journey that we've gone on so far with MetricStream. So this is me, an introduction to Clyde. So yeah, I'm the GRC lead at Autodesk. I have, to credentialize myself, I have 15 years in GRC. And I was at KPMG for 10 years. So like I worked with a lot of companies, let's see, like Merrill Lynch, Mass-Mutual, Charles Schwab, Experian, the credit rating agency, Salesforce.com. Yeah, so yeah, I've seen like a lot of different sizes of GRC for sure. And yeah, I'm really pleased to be at Autodesk right now. These are some of my interests. So I like traveling, and I like gardening. Those are my prize broccoli. And I like diving. And I've been trying to learn stand-up comedy. Yeah, right? This is a good setup. I can feel you guys are a good crowd. And I have 50% equity in a baby raising operation. And my wife would say 49%. A little bit about Autodesk. So we're the makers of AutoCAD. Like AutoCAD is a software that construction company uses, like engineering companies, you know, aircraft, aerospace companies use to design airplanes, buildings, and also Hollywood. Like a lot of CGI graphics are done using Autodesk too. So it's a really important software, and it's like an old software company masquerading as a new software company, because it was founded way back in the day in the 80s, but now most of our offerings are cloud offerings. Yeah, and we engage with our customers that way. So we're 14,000 people, that's the size. We're like 4 billion plus in revenue, and we have these core industries that we work with. Now, our values at Autodesk and our intent is like, we are very design focused, a better world designed and made for all. We empower innovators. Like we have, we use the word makers a lot in our sort of internal communications at Autodesk. Yeah, and so we intend to provide them intuitive, powerful, and accessible software. Like, so this will inform how Sapna, my boss over here, and I go about doing MetricStream at Autodesk. And these are some of the products that you may or may not have heard of before. like how we're organized at Autodesk. So I sit in the trust organization. Okay. And we have at the top of the house a trust leader. We have a security design, risk and compliance leader that sits below them. Then Sapna over here, she's security risk, and I am the GRC lead. And the reason I am pointing this out is just to let you know like where MetricStream is being driven from in the organization. For us, it comes up through security, through trust, and into the broader organization from there. Now, as a security org, we have certain strategic intents. One of those is customer trust. Another is secure by default. And the third is risk-focused priorities, which means risk gets a really close look in our large organization, even though within trust, it's a very small team. Like our drivers, I mean, one of the very special things about Autodesk's journey with MetricStream is that we're trying to get FedRAMP compliant. We're in the midst of getting the authority to operate in FedRAMP. And what that is like the ability to sell to the federal government. It's a huge audit and process and continuous process. And that was actually our main driver for buying MetricStream to begin with, was FedRAMP. But it's also like the source of our biggest headaches, which I'll point out to you guys later. Apart from that, we're also doing compliance for a range of frameworks. We're trying to infuse more of a culture of risk-aware decision making. Now, Autodesk, like the way we're organized, we look at things a lot by service or product because we offer a range of services and products. Like, actually, I don't even know how much, 200 plus like products that the end user can use, right? So we have these product owners, we have the responsibility is a lot divided by product, and we do our compliance by product too, critically. Like we are a small risk team, Sapna's team, but we're trying to do as many risk assessments as we can, and therefore automation really helps us with that. And in general, like any GRC tool, we're trying to break down silos between all these different stakeholders. Now, in our case, we're trying to do it from like the ground up, right? Because we're not ERM, we're security risk. Okay, so yeah, we're 2 years into it. Like the modules specifically that we have are IT risk, IT compliance, and policy and document management. All of our initial use cases are security use cases, security compliance, security risk, FedRAMP compliance, and security policies, these types of things. And we have plans to broaden that out into privacy, into vendor management. But we have this like core basis that we're starting from. And then like, we have 2 instances. Because we're FedRAMP certified, we have 2 instances. This is what we look like right now. So we have a FedRAMP instance and we have a commercial instance. Like, I mean, this is a huge lesson, but like a FedRAMP instance, FedRAMP, the federal government, they have strictures and guidelines in place that determine like who can look at this, who should have access to it, even within our organization, much less like end users of our products. I mean, don't even talk about that, but like who within our org, and there's just all kinds of friction to getting on like our FedRAMP net, you know? It's totally different from our commercial net. Our FedRAMP net has many more controls in place and there's a lot of friction getting on it. So like while FedRAMP was the first thing that our driver, our primary driver, our funder, and the reason we got into MetricStream, like when we found that we wanted to go to a broader audience, we found it really difficult because from an adoption angle, like people just didn't want to go through the checks and balances that they would need to get onto the FedRAMP net. And we totally understand that. So like we have this separate instance. It's a cloud instance, and we have a lot of very useful use cases on the cloud instance. Of course, they're based on the same foundation because Autodesk is Autodesk, whether you're talking about Autodesk for government or Autodesk for commercial. You'll be familiar with the GRC Foundation. It's extremely hard to piece together, and I'll be going through that later in the lessons learned. And we have a very cool data warehouse called Opus. It's like a security org data warehouse. And a lot of our, well, all of the data that MetricStream consumes comes from there, which is like wonderful because now I don't have to create different connectors for things like Qualys is our instance scanning tool. Twistlock is a container scanning tool. DivvyCloud's our asset management tool. ServiceNow also has assets. Yeah, it's great. It's great, and it's challenging too. So I'll stop. Are there any questions about like how we're set up or anything about our use cases? Okay. Right. Well, I mean, as far as like what we've delivered in terms of value, so we're a one-stop shop for product owners on SOC 2 and ISO, and we plan to do a lot of the other like SOCs, IT SOCs at least, a lot of the other frameworks that we have to comply with as well. We are the risk register for Autodesk, at least from a security perspective. Security risk assessments, we're in the process of getting those onboarded onto MetricStream. We have this like huge requirement around FedRAMP. Like we need to report to our sponsoring federal agency every month on how we're doing against vulnerabilities. We're FedRAMP moderate, by the way, FedRAMP moderate out of 3 levels of FedRAMP. Yeah, and we're well positioned, that last bullet point, to be ingesting any other security data that we might need because we have this connection to this data warehouse and we have a strong hand in designing the different endpoints to the data warehouse. So next year, like what we're going to be doing this year is we're going to be doing end-to-end compliance testing. We're going to be implementing an ICF. We're going to be trying to do automated evidence collection. If anyone has ever done that, I'm definitely like happy to talk to you and pick your brain. And policy management, security policy management lifecycle, we're going to be doing that too. Right. Top challenges. Okay, so the first one is FedRAMP. Like, operating 2 environments sucks. And FedRAMP, like, operating an on-prem environment sucks too. Just in general, like, that's why MetricStream is so, like, cloud-heavy these days. But we got to do it because we need those controls over our FedRAMP environment. Unfortunately, that's, like, a fact of life. Now, the best case here is if MetricStream gets FedRAMP moderate certified. That would be the best case. Barring that, like what I would have said, well, like I was brought in and everything when this was already started, but understanding the implications of your segregation of data for FedRAMP is like really critical before technology selection. We have this challenge with silos. You might have heard of it. Like this is our org structure, and these are the different places where our stakeholders work. It's like security, privacy, internal audit, ERM, legal, IT, up there. And like it's a pretty siloed organization. Like all organizations are pretty siloed, and Autodesk is a pretty siloed organization. So it is like pretty difficult. Like the challenges that I see here are like understanding and being informed when stuff is happening that affects me as a GRC implementation person. Like if stuff is happening to Opus or or if stuff is happening to like other upstream or downstream systems, like I want to know about it. And then, yeah, driving process change. And we're just learning, I would say, how to do like interdisciplinary working groups. And ideally, like these groups would be formed from the ground up. Like, you know, when you guys are doing it, that's how I would advise that you guys do it. But at Autodesk, I find ours, like we're doing it a lot at the tactical and operational level, using initiative from our own employees and contractors. So it's a huge challenge. Like we have this problem right now, and it will probably always be a problem, which is determining authoritative sources of truth. And this is specifically for data that is coming in for us to tick and tie our GRC foundation. So an example of this is we're trying to put together an information asset inventory right now because it's a requirement for like ISO and certain other frameworks. It's difficult because like what is an information asset? Is it all your EC2s? You know, is it all your databases? Is it your containers? It's more than that. It's more than that. And that means if you want to do it right, you should be grabbing it from another system. MetricStream should not be the system where it's your system of truth for information assets. But now you got to go determine what these systems are, what data is in them, and then you have to normalize them if they're coming from multiple systems. That's like a huge challenge. But like for me, I'm lucky, and this is advice, that you might piggyback on other data consolidation efforts. And that's one thing that I've learned, like putting together these interdisciplinary groups, is like I'm communicating with these other groups and they have stuff going on too that is similar. And I can like put my requirements in there because they have like maybe bigger teams formed for doing these things. Like getting new data sources into our data warehouse, like I have to plan 2 quarters ahead to before I implement a use case that will use this data. I have to get it into the data where I have to like understand because they have their own priorities and stuff comes up. So I have to work at least 6 months ahead of time there strategically. Now we have some processes that are mature and some are immature. And this is like both a blessing and a curse. And the blessing part of it is that like MetricStream has a lot of these workflows already. Like they're called your out of the box workflows. Therefore, you can, like if you have an opportunity to just use that as your process, you can use that in your process. Then you have perfect alignment between your technology and your process, which is like rare to have. And ERM, like for us, is a pretty small group. So we don't get a lot of direction in terms of like a risk hierarchy, risk taxonomy. And you know, that's something that I'm working through like directly with that group. All right. So I think we're right on time. Are there any questions?
Yeah. So I understand that the product owners access MetricStream. So what do they do? Do they take some survey to do data categorization, or is it just that to maintain their own product or asset record within MetricStream?
Oh yeah, no, it's like evidence collection is like primarily what our ask is of them, but also issues management as well. These will be like the touch points for your broader audience, not like your power user audience. All right, well, thanks so much, guys. And let me know if you have any questions outside of